Yes, I did. Good evening.
Hello, can you guys hear us?
Barely.
Barely, 1 second.
It might be on our part, so hold on.
Sign up.
There's no.
In the back there, if you plan on making any comments, we have a little sign up
There.
board back.
Can you guys hear us?
That's better.
Thank you.
Much better. Okay, perfect. Make you guys loud here.
They couldn't, they had no time, but yeah.
All right, we'll give these folks a chance to sign in and then
Yeah.
we'll call a meeting to order. All right, I think we'll call the meeting to order. It is, I don't know, 5:32, October 9th, 2024. Regular meeting of the Planning Commission. We'll start with a roll call. Let's see, let's start with you, David, and we'll just go around the table.
David Merrick, District 3. Tony Moss, District 3.
Lane Bonus, District 2, Cedar Ridge.
Matt Clark, District 1.
I'm Kate Darlington, District 3.
Cindy Watson, District 1 in Delta.
Kate Kirk, County Planner.
Valerie Dixon, I'm planning technician.
Whitney Haying. Man, I don't know.
You were here.
Not a planner.
Barely.
All right, just a little note.
We have anybody?
Yeah, on Zoom, we have the applicants. As far as I know, there's no one else. If public joins on Zoom, we'll address them later. Just a quick note for the commission, Valerie is fairly new and she is in charge of doing the minutes. They've asked if we can please address each other by name as we are asking questions or talking to one another, and keep in mind to speak one at a time so that Valerie can have an easier job writing the minutes. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda today? Nope. All right, so our first order of business is to review the meeting minutes from the July 10th meeting and the August 14th meeting. Those minutes are in front of us. I will open it up to the commission if anyone has any edits or any comments on the minutes, and or just a motion to approve them.
Cindy Watson, motion to approve the minutes, please.
Lane Bonus, second.
All right, everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Doesn't seem like it. Motion passes to approve the minutes from July 10th and August 14th, 2024. The main item on our agenda tonight is the public hearing for project number 24-026. We'll start with a presentation by staff. We'll follow that up by an introduction from the applicants with any additional information they'd like to add or any answers to any questions that come up. And then we will open the floor to public comment. It looks like there's a couple of folks in the room who would like to make public comment, and if anyone else shows up on Zoom, they'll be allowed to do that as well. So we'll start with the staff presentation.
All right. So today we have project number 24-026 Creatini. This is for consideration of a preliminary subdivision in the A20 district. The project is located on the west side of Crawford Road in Paonia. Next slide. The parcel consists of 36 acres, which has been zoned A20 per the 2024 land use code. The applicant is proposing a 3-lot subdivision, which is a preliminary plat, which requires recommendations from your commission to the Board of County Commissioners, who are the final decision-making body. Access is existing from Crawford Road. A new shared access is proposed for lots 2 and 3. Domestic water exists on the parcel for all 3 lots. There is a Bone Mesa water tap assigned to lot 1. Lot 2 is serviced by the road's spring number 3, and lot 3 has a domestic well. The property has 10 shares of the Minnesota ditch. As stated on the plat, the irrigation shares will be assigned as followed. Lot 1 will have 2 shares, lot 2 will have 4 shares, and lot 3 will have 4 shares. Lot 1 has an existing permitted OWTS permit. You can see the permit there as Q2496, and there is currently no OWTS installed on lots 2 and 3 as they are newly proposed lots. Next slide. Here you'll see the vicinity map. The project site is located on the west side of Crawford Road and is approximately 3.38 miles southwest of the town of Paonia. Next slide. Here's the zoning map. The parcel has been zoned A20. The subject parcel is surrounded by the properties that have been zoned A20 with acreages ranging from 2 acres to 41.60 acres. The parcel is also surrounded by properties that have been zoned A35 with acreages ranging from 10 acres to 263 acres. This is the preliminary plat proposed for the subdivision. The lots have been color-coded accordingly. Lot 1 is fully developed with a residential lot with all utilities installed, including domestic water. Lot 2 is a vacant residential / ag lot. Domestic water will be served by the road's spring number 3. Lot 3 is a vacant residential and ag lot. Domestic water will be served by a domestic well. The hatched orange area to the east of the property is the road dedicated to be deeded to Delta County for Crawford Road. The hatched red area adjacent to the orange is the previous road dedication that was deeded to Delta County for Crawford Road. The pink arrow is where the existing access is located for lot 1. The hatched purple line is the proposed shared access easement for lots 2 and 3. And lastly, the yellow star is the location of the road spring. Next. Staff has recommended 12 conditions, which are included in the staff report. The conditions are as follows. Project 24-026 is approved as a preliminary plat, creating 3 lots in the A20 zoning designation located on the west side of Crawford Road in Paonia. Sorry, I have to move the block so I can read. This approval shall expire and the plat is considered vacated if the final plat is not submitted within 12 months from the date of the preliminary plat approval by the Board of County Commissioners. Written request is to extend this time frame must be received by the planning department at least 30 days prior to the prescribed expiration. All existing and proposed easements and encumbrance, including but not limited to existing and proposed utility easements, shared access, and water delivery shall be shown on the final plat. Proof of adequate water supply is required for preliminary plats. The applicant shall submit proof of domestic water source, so tap, spring, or well. within the subject property shall be listed on the final plat prior to recording. The applicant is not proposing to develop the new lots, therefore no OWTS will be installed on these lots, making a favorable recommendation by CDPHE or Delta County Environmental Health not necessary at this time. Prior to recording the final plat, the plat must include a plat note explaining right to irrigation water. The final plat must also include the number of shares for each lot. Access permits shall be issued for each lot within the subdivision. Said permits shall be completed and issued prior to final plat approval. The final plat shall include information for the adjoining properties, as well as the existing roads, conditions for abutting roads, and those involved in the project to satisfaction of the county engineer. A traffic impact study shall be completed. Traffic impact studies shall include at a minimum the information required by table 5A, traffic impact study scope based on the level of study required. Said level shall be determined by the county engineer. Prior to recording the final plat, the applicant shall provide deeds separate with legal descriptions of each new lot, including notarized signatures to be recorded with the plat. The final plat shall include all standard plat notes as required by the 2024 Land Use Code, and the applicant shall pay the public site/open fee space of $300 per lot for an increase of 2 lots totaling in $600, along with all other final plat fees prior to recording the final plat. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommends the following actions to the Board of County Commissioners. Find that the project number 24-26 Creatini can meet requirements of the 2024 Land Use Code for a preliminary plat, and approve a preliminary plat to subdivide 36 acres into 3 lots, lot 1 being 20.21 acres, lot 2, 7.57 acres, and lot 3, 7.1 acre in the A20 zone, subject to condition. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Brittany. We'll start off with questions for the staff. We can go around the room, starting with David again.
There's an existing access for, I'm just trying to clarify, lot 1 off of Crawford Road, right?
Correct.
And then the proposal is to create a second access to Crawford Road.
For lot 2 and 3, yes.
Okay. And the traffic study, I assume, will address whether that's feasible, given the nature of the road and.
The traffic study won't.
So the traffic study, what they start out with is a level 1, and depending on what that ADT number is, it might kick it into a level 2. But with the fact that this is just another 2 lots added to this, it probably will not go to a level 2.
Right.
But county engineering will look at the access for safety, and the standards for that, and it is right now proposed directly across from, the Corners, if I'm saying their name right, which is directly east from this property,
Okay,
so that you don't have offset access points.
okay, that's a good point. I just know that there's a 90-degree turn right at the bottom of this
Mhm.
property here. And
Yeah, no, this
you
one's
can't
up.
see that well.
Yeah,
Some of the comments that were submitted in the written comments, they raised an issue about shared irrigation water. Has that been addressed in here at all? I know they're supposed to come up with an irrigation plan, but it sounds like there's already some shared irrigation with the neighboring properties based on the comments. Do you have any more information on that?
We do not.
And I noticed that there's an application for this spring to convert that to domestic use, but that hasn't been addressed by the water court yet.
I believe it has.
That's what I would question, is that, have they approved that?
As far as I know, yes,
Okay.
the well and the spring has been completed.
Okay, both for domestic.
Correct.
Okay. I think that's the only questions I have for staff right now.
All right, Tony, do you have any questions for staff?
No, I'm good.
Lane?
I was just kind of curious, the neighbor across the road said that, their driveway is just over the crest of the hill. Maybe, it would behoove the county to put, warning signs up, you know, maybe the county engineer should go out there and look at it personally. See that, another driveway would not create, a greater hazard than already exists. I don't know, certainly,
Okay. Matt?
So I see that on one of the plat diagrams there, they are closing a road access to blue lot up there. So having an access, it's a trade, it's a 1-for-1, so I don't see an issue there. I'd have to direct you to one of these little plats, which one it was.
It looks like to me on the comments from county engineering that they said that the existing it's an existing ag access
Okay,
and it doesn't meet the minimum spacing.
right,
So that would need to be removed
and
and replaced, I guess, with this proposed one.
yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right, any other concerns or questions for staff? You're good, Matt?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I feel like I'm missing something about lot size in a A20. Their original application said they were requesting a variance for lot size. Was that given and now we're at the point of subdivision of public hearing? Or did we find just within the code, they meet enough? Oh,
So when this application was submitted, it was actually after the new land use code was updated and
Mhm.
adopted. So those requirements for variances had changed.
okay,
So it was sent out and then it was hey, we have an updated code. This is not how this process is supposed to be.
gotcha.
So that's why it got pulled back.
And do we have language in the code or can you remind us what that is for subdivision within A20? It's just that one lot needs to maintain the
So-
20 acres.
Right, so they are in the A20 and because lot 1 is over 20 acres, we're looking at lots 2 and 3. And just at least one of them need to be a 1 acre minimum. So they are both over that 1 acre minimum and they have access to utilities.
Okay. And I think that was my biggest just clarification. I have a couple questions for the applicant about irrigation water and irrigation use on the land. I'll pass it to you, Cindy, if you've got any questions.
Mine really arose out of the letters that we received from neighbors. And I was not able to find my answer, so maybe if I pose it, that would help. Is some of this area or any of this area protected wetland area? Bird sanctuary, et cetera, because I hear that as a resounding theme through these letters. And again, I don't want to assume something that I don't have total knowledge of. Does
So-
anybody know?
I know it's not shown on the plat, which it will need to be.
Okay,
But according to the National Wetlands Inventory, there are multiple spots on the property.
okay,
The one that is up kind of where that big plat note is on lot 2, up
Got it.
about or on
I'm
the
with you.
boundary,
uh-huh,
is a freshwater emergent wetland.
How much, of that lot two, what is like the
just,
circumference or?
it says it's 0.33 acres, but it spans their
Yeah.
property and the property to the north.
That's what I thought,
So it's
okay,
kind of
okay.
split.
Would that be preserved?
I mean, it needs to be delineated. You can't develop into the wetlands regardless. But the wetlands and deep water habitats in this area, are. Usually it tells me, give me a moment.
Okay.
Dominated by species that normally remain standing at least
Right.
any of the next growing
It could
season.
be here.
I don't see anything about specific wildlife through there. And then there is another spot that is right along where that comes down, between lots 2 and 3, according to their map,
Mhm.
and it is 0.5 acres of freshwater emergent wetlands. So I don't
Okay.
think there's any wildlife in there, but it is marked wetlands on their inventory. So that will need to be put on the plat.
Okay, so that's part of my question. I think that I will have an answer, as will Chairman Kate here about the irrigation, because I think that's a question I have as well. And also the preservation of ag, that seems to be a resounding theme within all these letters as well, that I've picked up. But as we go along, I may have my questions answered. Thank you.
All right, before we turn it over to the applicant, do any of the commissioners have any follow-up questions for staff? All good? Okay, so we're gonna turn it over to the applicants. They are on Zoom. So Valerie will toggle to them and then probably do a fair amount of toggling back and forth to our visuals and whatnot on the slideshow. I'll have you folks introduce yourselves, and if you have anything to add about the project that we didn't cover, the staff didn't cover, we'll let you do that. Staff may have some, or the commissioners might have some questions for you, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. My name is Stefano Creatini, and this is my wife, Tessa.
Hi.
And then, what specific questions?
It sounds like a few folks have questions about irrigation, how you're planning to split that, and the question coming up from neighbors about whether there's already some shared irrigation agreements. Maybe let's start there.
Okay. Yeah, so the way the lots are broken up, addressing the agriculture question, is that they match the natural drainage of the land. So in lot 3, we already have an existing gated pipe system. And so it's able to maintain that integrity with this type of subdivision. That's why we went with the shape. And in lot 2, the same thing. It has a natural slope. So as far as providing water coming in, it basically matches the other side as a downslope coming in. So that was our intent. Obviously, with this lot, we've been wanting to farm. We've been trying to get into an ag property for a long time. So for us, ag is the whole point of this. So if these lots can be made, we would want our neighbors to also adhere to agricultural standards and maintain these lots in that standard.
And what portion of the ground is currently being used or currently being irrigated? It's kind of everything besides the home site currently in irrigated ag, and what type of ag is going on there right now?
So on lot 3, it's pretty much right now an existing hayfield, and I would say all of that is being irrigated. And then we have lot 2, there's it's kind of hard without a map to show, but we have water coming in. It was previously irrigated. The old man that owned this place let that go, but lot 2 did have a good amount of watering, and there's ditches that would catch excess water from lot 3 that would bring it to lot 2. So yeah, that's where it's at. What's that?
That one.
And yeah, from lot 1, the water comes in on the property at the top of the north side of lot 1.
Okay,
And as far as to address the irrigation, the way the water comes in is right now from like the house. If you look at the house side on lot 1, about 100 feet to the north, that's where the water comes in, and there's an existing line that goes and it's buried, and there's risers that come up right where lot 3 is at the south side of lot 3. And so it's fairly easy to connect to that, and the gated pipe, I'm sure that structure is going to stay intact for whoever would buy this lot. And then there's also a lateral heading, so it would be fairly easy just to keep all the structure would stay the same to irrigate. Now, as far as agreements, from what I understand, it's a gentleman's agreement. What is set up with the current 2 neighbors, the water is shared, so we can maximize the volume to spread the water. So with that, we haven't really talked as far as, but we have a time allotment. So if it is divided between this, how we're proposing the 4 lots and the 4 shares per lot, then it would seem logical thing would be to have just a time allotment and keep the same structure going with the neighbors.
Cindy, did you have any
I
other?
Stefano, my name is Cindy Watson, and I'm the vice chair. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you, Cindy?
I'm doing good, sir. So, question I have is, it looks like you are subdividing up these lots mainly to sell. You're not looking at residing on a lot yourself and then dividing some of these up, or are you actually remaining there? What is your plan, if I may ask?
Yeah, so lot 1 is if I could, let me back up. If we could keep all this property financially, I would in a heartbeat. And
Okay.
so we have a 7.5 or 7 high interest rate. So the idea was to start with 1 lot, and then we were told that it would be a 10-year. So that's where lot 2 came in. And this is like my forever property. Like lot 1 is where I plan to die in. So for us, it's
Where we
really,
currently live.
and where we currently live. So that's our story of how we're there. Like I've been dreaming of buying an agriculture property for since I met Tessa 10 years ago. So this is kind of yeah, if I could get a 2% interest loan, I would keep the whole thing. So
We all would. So you're looking at residing then on lot 1, which you reside on now.
correct.
So if I can ask and be, I guess, as upfront as you can, with the letters that we received, many of them are concerned about the integrity of agricultural land being maintained. Could you answer that question first, or maybe set some ease to neighbors saying, hey, here, I'm staying here, or this is what my intent is? How would you address that?
Yeah, I would dress it as well as a concerned neighbor, because we would live next to these properties. The residing neighbors, if you look around the lots, there are 1 lot across the corners, the Gary corner, that's a 5-acre lot. The neighbors to the north have a 7 acres. So this area is maintained like that, and that the purpose, and I know I kind of hinted out or talked a little bit about it before. That's why we chose this specific to maintain the water. If we broke it up any other way, it'd be too easy to let agricultural land not get watered. So this is the best way. And then, we have 10 shares. We're giving a lot of shares to these 2 lots for the purpose of having agricultural integrity. Like we could have suggested 2 or 1, and that's honestly not adequate. If anybody wants to come in here and have like 7 acres, it's hard to to farm a lot, but if you're looking like us, a younger family to homestead and do this kind of, that's why we added more water to those 2 lots to maintain that. But yeah,
What you
it,
wanna do on,
and what's that?
what you wanna do on that one in that vein, you wanna do. fruit
Oh,
trees and-
yeah, in lot 1, you know, we're gonna be doing a lot of agriculture. I have orchards. I just ordered 2,000 fruit trees. So like for us, I don't want a neighbor, obviously, I don't wanna, I want ag neighbors where these lots are, and we've talked about, like, that's very important to us, is who would propose to come into these lots. We want to make sure that we also have to live next to them, and lot 2 would share a spring from my property, so that would give them easement. So those are obviously concerns for us as well.
Okay, so the integrity of being able to keep it as ag land is intact. You feel that there's adequacy of water with irrigation water for those people that are looking to do that. And also for those individuals that have moved to the rural part of the country to have that kind of a lifestyle. You feel that you're gonna be able to keep that intact based on what you're proposing.
Correct.
Okay, that was my questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Kate Darlington, Chair again here. You sort of addressed my question about why the water was split how it is. You mentioned that the 2 proposed new lots, you wanted to make sure got enough water. But in your proposal, you have just 2 shares remaining on lot 1. Do you feel like that is adequate irrigation for your current lot? For the irrigation or for the ag that you plan to do? Or why didn't you give yourself more water?
Because I'm a good person. No. So lot 1, we have an abundant amount of springs coming in. So we have you might be able to see on the map, but we have Road Springs number 1, 2, and 3. So that's plenty of water, and that's constant year round. So that's adequate for what we have. And a lot of the ground is if you had a map, you would see, but it's a lot of subsurface irrigation. So there's plenty of water on lot 1 that we feel adequate.
And then my final, I guess, question for you guys, and potentially kick it back to staff, is currently you don't have any building sites planned for lots 2 and 3. But looking forward, as we're kind of planning for the future, presumably the people who would buy these lots would want to build on them. Have you discussed with staff the potential of building envelopes, or be amenable to restricting development within those lots to ensure that, the majority of the properties stays in feasible ag?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about that, and the way the lots are on, like, lot 3, for example, the only place, and that's the only place a house site makes sense, would be to the west, the northwest section, because you would have the house, the neighbors, K, up there, and then lot 2, just the way it's broken up, you'd naturally want to put a house just with the topography and the way water would in the south west section of it. So we'd be happy to put, and we would consider putting in building envelopes to that side, but naturally that's where you'd want, because you'd be further away from your neighbors to the north, and you'd have more privacy, which I feel like that's what most people would want.
Okay, thanks, that's helpful that you've thought that through. Do any other commissioners have questions for the applicants? Looks like David might be raising his hand.
David Merrick, District 3. When I drove by, the property today, it looked to me that lot 2 wasn't really, there wasn't much production going on there. I just wondered if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Lot 2 was just from what the old timers have told me, it was irrigated. And I measured the soil, it has high carbon, so it was a good hayfield at some point, but it needs to be maintained. And the guy that owned this farm is 90 something when he died, and he let a lot of things go. And those are kind of things we're fixing now.
Okay, so when I looked at it today, it didn't look like there was any production on lot 2, and you're saying that's probably the case?
So as it current stands, like if you're talking about me being productive and pulling hay, there, we have cattle in there, and there's runoff from lots 1 and 3 going down to lot 2, so that greened up. But as far as like a productive hayfield, I would say no, but we've been using it, running neighbors' cattle through there.
Okay. So going back to the irrigation water, you say you currently own 10 shares. And then you timeshare your 10 shares with the neighbors?
So they have their own, I believe Larry Gillenwater has 10 shares, and I think Hannah Kay has I want to say 2 or 3 shares. And so we share that whole allotment of, it would be close to 20, 22, 23 shares.
So then I guess the proposal would be take your 10 shares and then further timeshare it among your 3 lots?
Correct. Yep.
I hear you do.
I think that's all I have right now.
All right, thank you so much, Stefano. We will move on to public comment. I'm gonna go
Can-
grab that.
Can I make some comments before? So
yeah.
with the new proposed Crawford Road, I don't know what you call it, but it's a 50-foot easement that the county's looking for on this type of subdivision. And the only thing for us is that our main house is very close to the road. So when you put in 50 feet from the center of the Crawford Road, it brings the new boundary, I think, within 14 feet of our house existing structure. So I would want to propose like to decrease that maybe like a 30-foot, and that would give us a little bit more from the house to the road.
Okay, we can, I guess, Kate or Brittany, can you address that now? Is that something that's possible, or can you address what it means that this, is it an easement or a dedication?
Sure.
No,
I think it's the road dedication.
It's
Oh, it's-
technically an easement.
okay,
I mean, it's
yeah,
the new state statute
Uh-huh.
laws with surveying.
Okay.
But I mean, those are the requirements of county engineering based on the road classification, which we can't change. So, I mean, it's something that we could take forward to engineering and the Board of County Commissioners and see if they want to minimize that by some. But other than that, it's a requirement for
Okay.
the road standards for that dedication.
Devonna, did you hear that okay, of what Kate said?
Yeah, it's part of the dedication I did.
Okay, good.
and I assume because the house is pre-existing, that wouldn't put them in any weird spots about setbacks and whatnot, or how does that work?
A good question. I think that'd be a question for county engineering. Because their setback from the edge of the roadway is 25 feet.
Yeah.
But it's existing, and if they take that right away, I don't know what that means on their end.
And just for future like that, yeah, if the potential is that someday they could expand the width of the road and need that chunk of property. I guess a question for engineering would be like, in the next 50 years, is that within the plans of anything, or is it a more theoretical safety net or whatever, but.
Yeah, we can definitely take that to engineering and ask them.
Thank you.
All right, was there anything else from the applicant?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, let me grab the clipboard for public comment. We don't have anyone else on Zoom, do we?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so we'll open up the meeting to public comment. Like we have 2 members of the public wishing to speak. We'll start with Kay Hannah. If you could come up to this microphone and introduce yourself as well as your address, so we have that for public record.
You can pull that right towards you if it's easier a little bit. Sometimes it gets out there a little far. There you go.
That seemed about right. My name is Kay Hannah, and I'm one of the owners and residents at 11589 Crawford Road, which is the property immediately on the north side of this proposal. We would share a fence line with Lot 3 if this development does go forward.
Okay.
And Ms. Hannah, what would you like us to know?
Well, I'm opposed to this subdivision that Realty Trust, the owners of the property, are proposing. They're proposing to triple the density of houses on this particular lot, which would lead to a sort of unknown and unregulatable increase in people and vehicles on the same piece of property. I feel that the proposed access is dangerous. It's on a blind hill. I mean, all the driveways along that road are a little bit treacherous, but adding another one doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And that the access appears to be 60 feet wide, puts it way out of scale compared with anything else around there. The fact of the matter about the irrigation is the irrigation system that is shared by the property applicant's property, ourselves and the Gillen Water. My husband Steve and I live there. Our pipe is buried beneath this proposed easement, and it's not of a gauge, quality, or age to permit a lot of traffic driving over it. It's, I believe, 50-pound pipe, and it's been there for over 30 years. So if there is to be any kind of heavy traffic over this old system, it's going to need to be replaced, and that is going to have to be addressed in anything going forward. I'm concerned with the access, and especially with the development of Lot 3, obviously, about noise and light pollution, degradation of our quality of life, which living next to a hayfield, we get birdsong, we get quiet. It's nice, we have hayfield, we have cows grazing. If somebody builds a house there, all that's gone, and our property value plummets with that. So I feel like, we're dealing with land speculation for money, for profit, which I understand. But I think that we also need to balance that with a concern for the community, the small community that we are. Delta County in the land use code, one of its purposes is to protect rural communities. And I would like to say that, we in the Gillen Waters, the Corners, who couldn't be here this evening because of a family situation, but obviously you've read their letter and you understand their concerns. We're a community, and as such, this proposal kind of doesn't support that. So I would like to recommend a compromise where lots 2 and 3 are combined, so the property is divided into 2 pieces. The proposed access is not approved, the access will go through the existing access on lot 1. And all the building should be contained over on lot 2, leaving lot 3, which is an irrigated hayfield, as purely agricultural land. I think this would address a lot of the neighbors' concerns about the proposed access, about the degradation of our quality of life and the devaluation of our property. And I think it might be a solution that, it's some give and take, but everybody gets a little something. If that's not possible, and if lot 3 does get approved to be sold separately, I would respectfully request that a building envelope be stipulated whereby any house or with its attendant septic and waste system be set back far enough from the road that the waste system won't potentially contaminate the wetlands, which does begin on their property, but goes over to our property, feeding an adjudicated spring and stock and irrigation water ponds. Let's see. We talked about balance of rights and responsibilities. So I think the proposal as it stands has a lot of problems. I think it's not considering the neighborhood in which it's asking to be built. And I would like to respectfully request that you either approve it to be split into 2 pieces, or if it must be split into 3, that you make some very strong stipulations about the building envelope being set back far enough so that it is not basically in our face or potentially contaminating our wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. We will move to Steve Dana, is that? Oh, yeah, sorry. Go for it, David.
Oh, sorry.
David Mary.
Hi, David.
3. How large is your parcel?
7.4 acres.
So it's about the same size as lot 3 then?
Yeah, a little bit
The proposed
bigger.
Lot 3.
Yeah,
And where is your house located?
it's right by the road.
It's right by the road, by
So-
Crawford Road?
It's right by Crawford Road, a little, it's set a little ways back, but
So you're southern, yeah, it's near the,
our southern view is straight up that hayfield
So
to,
you're right to the front of lot 3.
we're right to the
Right.
front of our property, yeah, on our
Right, I
property.
mean,
that
if I'm
we
looking
do
at the
the-
map.
Yeah, to the front of lot 3, looking at the map.
Mhm.
And as far as widening the road, it would only be that one little section because on our particular piece of property, there's a line of very large spruce trees that would interfere with that process.
Yeah,
Chair, Matt Clark, District 1. That being said, what happens in the event that the county comes along and takes that 50-foot strip up through your property?
Are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, I think so.
I would be very angry. And I would fight for my trees.
So, I don't know, that's a question maybe we ought to propose to staff. Can that be done? It's my understanding it can,
That's a question for county engineering.
yeah.
And it would be all the properties all the way down the road and up the road. So
I mean,
That's-
if they
Both
wanted to
sides
take
of
it,
the
they would need to take more than just the frontage of this property. They're
That'd
gonna
be
widen the
center
road.
line, either side of the center line there. So, I don't know, nobody's safe.
and also that easement is directly over our buried irrigation pipe. It is already there, has been there for over 30 years.
Yeah.
So that's, an issue that would have to be addressed as well.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think that is a pertinent
Yeah.
question, how we deal with that sort of existing infrastructure that is shared.
And the proposed access at 60 feet wide would, compromise all of that as well. Our valves and everything that are there would probably, all that would have to be replaced and it would have to be determined at whose expense.
I assume that 60 feet, access is per regulation.
It's the easement, it's not the actual drive surface.
It's only 50 feet, isn't
It's 60.
The access point is 60, the road dedication.
Dedications.
The proposed access going into the property, not the dedicated easement.
Okay, do any other commissioners have questions for Ms. Hannah? Yeah.
My name is Cindy Watson, Ms. Hannah. A question, just so I have, clarity. I know where your home is now. You're closer to the front of than lot 3. Tell me about, your neighbor Gillenwater. Where would their home be? I know that they're more on the end of that lot 3, but
They
just so I
are,
have an idea.
they're off of L75 Road.
Okay,
Their address is actually on
so the
L75.
view of lot 3 is not as imperative as your view of lot 3.
No,
That's what I'm looking at it, okay?
yeah, they live a lot farther away.
And what about the neighbor then, Gary and Patricia, corner? What is their,
They're directly across
on the other
Well,
side?
on the other side of the road, and their house is to the north of their driveway, so that would, their view would be also of lot 3. Of the, you know, the part closest to the road.
So you're feeling even if they put a home on lot 3 and still preserved it being ag, whether it's in some type of orchard or a hayfield or whatever, you feel that you're strongly feeling that you would like to see a building envelope where that would not be to the front or of that lot, closer to the back of that lot, maybe towards touching the lot 2 boundary.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need clarification. If there was a building envelope on lot 3, where would you like to see that envelope?
I would like to see it as far to the west and south as possible.
Right up against lot 2 is what I'm
Okay.
understanding.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I feel like with the proposal as it sits, the adverse impacts of development are being borne by the neighbors and not at all by the sellers who are standing to profit from the whole transaction. And I feel that's unfair.
Do we have a wetlands map that we can put up on the screen of lot 2 and lot?
You have access to your email?
It's
I'd be curious to see where that's set,
Yeah.
Tony.
just curious to see what the wetlands, where the home can be. There's all kinds of rules with the health department, where leach field can go, how far away they have to be.
Right.
So that concern is kind of a mute point because there's all kinds of rules, right?
Then they dictate where the house.
Where the house can go, how it can be built, what the wetlands are, what the irrigation.
So some of her questions that she's bringing up could actually just be answered by determining where the wetlands are.
Where the wetlands.
The wetlands are gonna determine where that building envelope can go or not.
Steve, on the map that was included in your packet, Steve had drawn in to scale where those wetlands are. And it's not like a protected wetlands, it's just a spring fed,
Yeah.
just a spring fed,
Into the, okay, it's gonna be the end of the communications that came to us with the neighbors.
Well, there's gonna be where the house.
okay, and he will address some of these things too when he's.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, does anyone else have any specific questions for Ms. Hannah? Good, all
Thank you
right.
for your time.
Yes, thank you. We will invite Steve Dannen up to the microphone.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah.
All right, thank you for your time.
Steve, if you can introduce yourself and your address for the public record.
Steve Daniff, 11589 Crawford Road. Right next door to lot 3.
Okay, Steve, we did receive your letter as well, but if you want to summarize your comments and maybe add a little to this conversation about where you believe the wetlands are.
Okay, I did draw a map with the wetlands. It is basically on any map that you have in a little area of information, it's right next to that. It comes out about as far as that wellhead, and it's a couple 100 feet wide. It's actually much smaller than it's ever been. It's been drying up with the drought weather that we had, but it's always had standing water there. It's definitely a wetlands. And as far as animal goes, there are all the wetland birds that you can imagine do come through there, land in there and land in our pond also. That water goes from there through our pond, which is stock water, down our field to another pond, which is stock water, and then into Larry Gillenwater's field for hay and stock water. And then on down to a ditch and I assume to the river. So I think it's an important piece of water to keep clean and pay attention. And any wetlands in, I think in Colorado is important to pay attention to. The right of way that's coming down the road is, as Kay said, directly on top of all the irrigation pipe that we have underneath there. It would encompass 5 valves, a bunch of underground pipe, a bunch of above ground pipe being there. And I don't know, if it becomes a road, then everything is underneath paved road. I think it would have to be moved. And when it's moved, it changes the whole situation. It's a gravity-based situation. If something's moved 50 feet downhill, then there's 50 feet uphill that's going to lose water. The whole keeping Delta County ag-based is kind of why I voted for the land use code and why I like to live here, because I understand that there's big plots of land and it's important to have big plots of land. I thought that in the Ag 20 area that it would be difficult to subdivide. And in fact, if you look in the code on the chart where it says land uses per age 20, nowhere listed under there is a subdivision. So it doesn't seem appropriate. But I do understand, needing to make money, needing to sell some of your land to make money. And along with Kay, I agree that a 2-lot split would solve a lot of the issues with the irrigation, with domestic water. I don't know that either of those domestic water sources are any good at all. The domestic water situation for lot 2 is pumped almost 500 feet from lot 1 to get that water even over to the lot line. So to me, it doesn't seem like that water's on that lot. The well water can't be any better than the wetlands water, which is very close to it. That, it's all just swamp out in there. Also, that wellhead was set, at the 150 feet from the road that it was supposed to be set at. And then a 50-foot easement was put in. So if that easement goes in, something happens there, then that well is only 100 feet from that. So that changes the legitimacy of that in my mind. The fact that they're not selling it as people, they're selling it as a land trust, it leaves me, to believe it's more of a business thing than people selling their land. The land trust, I've seen it happen before. I'm kind of in the construction business where people make a land trust, do their land deal, and then the land trust goes away. There's no accountability, there's no responsibility. It's all just left behind. It's kind of what you would do if you were just selling the land for speculation and then not caring about it. So even though it's not my land, I care about it. And I do think that if it was split into two lots, with lots 2 and 3 being one nice big piece of rural agricultural land, lot 3 could be farmed untouched and almost with changing no irrigation at all. It's ready to go. Lot 2 has much better building sites and could be farther away from everybody and could also be accessed from their existing driveway, which would solve a lot of problems on the driveway and down below. Wouldn't be over the pipes, it wouldn't be in a dangerous spot. It just I think it would fit in better. We'd have better rural privacy. We would have less water concerns. Everything would be more in touch with the rural feeling, you know, than just kind of making little suburbias everywhere. Anywhere you can throw in a 5-acre lot. I mean, I know how it's been done. My lot is only 7 1/4, but that was done in like the 40s or something when it wasn't really an issue. And that was for the sake of somebody's parents to live on that piece of land. So I believe that this is way different than that. There was a lot of things that I didn't see on the plat. I used to be a surveyor. I understand I can read maps. Not seeing the wetlands on the map, I thought I needed to draw that, and I thought that was an important thing to put in early because that needed to be protected. Oh, there's no other, for those other lots, there's no other bone mesa water taps available, and probably won't be for a long, long time. So, yeah, I would have liked to have seen my house on there. I would have seen where that 50, where that 50 feet would have come to on that. But I know that it would be, I mean, if they put anything through there at all, it's gonna remove all that irrigation. It's concrete boxes, there's tubing above and below. I'm really for saving that wetland and protecting it. I'm also really for people being able to do what they want to with their land. But as Kay said, I don't think that neighbors should get the brunt of a development or even another house being built. So, the way it looks right now with the lots 2 and 3 and all these questions that we have, I would like you to not approve it at all. And if that's not a possibility, I would approve of having a 2-lot split with certain conditions. One of them being that nothing could be split again off of that. I tried to keep it brief.
You have time, that's what you're here for.
Okay.
I appreciate your detailed notes on your letter you wrote. That was helpful in the indication of that wetlands, helps us understand a little bit better. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Dana?
I do. I'm trying to understand this irrigation that is it underneath the proposed access to lots?
You know what, I
2 and
did
3
draw
or
a map of that, if you'd like to see it. I have a.
Are you talking about that, the new proposed access or along the right of way?
All of it, all the way, all of it. Here's where the house is up here.
Right.
Water comes in Rocker Road, that's their number 1. It goes underground comes back up above.
Brittany, can you
goes
pull that
this
up
way,
that he's looking at?
Above, goes this way underground.
Maybe the bot or the, if you're going on the screen.
Mr. Dano, can I just interrupt for a second, sir? That we have something called plat concerns. Is that what yours is titled?
No, this is a new drawing I made.
You have to make.
Oh, okay, so we don't have a copy. Okay,
We should get a copy.
I have 3 copies
If you wanna pass those around, that would be great.
yeah, sorry.
Perhaps it would also be helpful if, Valerie could pull up the,
Maybe
the
have
plat.
them show us with a-
You don't see that?
plat
Show up on the picture.
on the, slideshow where you have the different lots in different colors. He could indicate on to the group on the screen.
So,
What he's talking
you can
about.
go up to that big screen here in just a second. We're gonna
Sure.
bring a map up.
Sure.
Yeah.
And just so that we visually see would really be so helpful for us.
That'd be great.
Thank you so much. Hold on one second. We'll enlarge it here.
Right.
Can
Clock.
you full screen that by chance?
This pipeline
Perfect,
goes down
yeah.
this driveway.
Okay, so where are you first? Let's start where you're at.
This is
On this
the
map.
project.
My house?
Yes, sir, please.
It is, up here.
Okay,
So the water for everybody on this side of the road, it's actually split with another farm on the other side of the road. There's more people involved and
That's where they-
more shares than he knows about.
Yeah, right.
Water comes in just below his house. And a line goes this way. And that's the hardest one to get. That's big dry spot that you can see driving up the road. Then it goes underground and goes to a valve here. That valve splits it so it can come back up and water this section or go out and water this whole section.
That valve is right about where that.
where the-
So, I'm gonna throw this out there, the irrigation system was an NRCS project done 20 years ago, and I'm sure there's a set of plans
Mhm.
at the NRC office.
It seems like there are two issues to me, and I think this is what David was getting at, is what happens if the county uses this easement to expand the road? Who
The county.
covers the cost of moving irrigation and whatnot?
So,
Then the second question, which is maybe more pertinent to this specific project, is if the proposed access is driving over infrastructure that might be damaged by that access point.
Right. Well, we would just like that to be made correct before that happens.
Correct. So what you're saying, Mr. Daniff, is that the line runs the length of the frontage of that property. It would all be within that easement.
Totally.
There's valves that come up at various places within the access point, that 60 feet. Are there valves or is it just pipe underground that you're worried about being damaged driving over?
It's kind of hard to say. I walked it off, but you're close.
Okay.
You're close in there, it's, without a tape measure.
you just buy this property before they put this pipeline in, or?
No, our property, it was part of the original pipeline system.
So you weren't there when it was installed?
No.
Good.
Okay.
The person who installed it is a person on the system.
Fuel and water, or?
Fuel and water.
Well, the person who buried the pipe originally is dead, and that's May, the owner that these people have.
But he hired somebody, anyway,
There could be records.
there is,
Yeah. Yeah, it comes from, quite a ways away. There's a lot of infrastructure.
right, it's not, so there's NRCS
Right.
has the plan.
Yes, surely there's some information out there.
So it's easy to figure out what it is. What needs to happen, the NRCS has all kinds of guidelines to put an access over this pipe and what has to be done and on, and so all that can be easily addressed.
So, that's okay if, say, nothing really happens or the whole thing gets subdivided, but if a road goes in there.
That's a whole different animal than what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That would be a
Yeah.
county issue.
Beyond our scope here.
There's also a utility line right there now, but
Right.
that can be changed.
So
too.
it's just like what they're doing on Rogers Mill, they're moving all the utilities, they're moving houses to put the road through there, and they can.
Well, part of my point about that whole irrigation system is dividing it into just two pieces of land. One already gets the irrigation and the other two would be perfect ag setup, place for a house and 10, 12 acres for all ag. I think it'd be a better use of the whole area than splitting into two houses, and the more you split up those shares of water, the less and less it is.
So.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I'll ask if there's any other questions specifically for Mr. Daniff, and then we can have some conversation amongst ourselves, potentially address staff or the applicant if there's other questions that come up.
I have a question.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Daniff.
Do we get a chance to respond?
Yeah. I think, Tony had a couple questions for you, but if you have anything you'd like to
Maybe.
respond to Mr. Daniff or Ms. Hannah about.
Yeah, so the question on the irrigation right now, because we have access and we bring heavy equipment. This year we did haying and we had maybe a 5-ton tractor going right over this. And, I would say like when you build a road and you compact it, and also we would get it built properly. So as far as like for 30 years, that hasn't been an issue. And, if we're gonna put gravel and compact it, it's gonna be much better than what it currently is. Like we'll drive tractors when it's muddy out there and the pipe hasn't had issues there. Did you have other?
Yeah, I think the point was made earlier about the 50-foot easement being largely at this point hypothetical if the county were to ever take advantage of it. So while I understand the concerns, I think the point was made that it's a question for county engineering to maybe address if that is going to be a problem. And so that's just, I guess, what I'd like to add is that we should talk to county engineering about that rather than, I don't know, I'd place too much weight on it right now. And then my other thing I wanted to say is that we're not some evil corporation that's come in to divide up the land and sell it off for a profit and move out. This is our family homestead. We plan on growing orchards and fruit trees and having a couple cows and goats. Like we're here for the long haul. We will be neighbors to these subdivided properties. We want to see it maintained as agriculture. So we're not out to make a profit at all and then run away. We just want to be able to afford our lifestyle here. And this is a way that we can do it.
Thank you.
All right, Tony, did you have further questions for the applicant?
Yeah, so you own the property in a trust right now?
Yeah. So we put it in a
Purpose
trust.
of the trust is?
The purpose of a trust, a couple different things for estate planning. I work in real estate. So the reason we got this is for succession. So like our kids, it's a lot easier to inherit. And then and then privacy. Like when we bought this place, instead of getting 100 mailers when we bought this, nobody sent this. So like it's twofold for those two purposes.
And then you're willing to put some organization together in the subdivision to keep it rural and put a limitation on the subdivision where it can't be subdivided again for 20 years?
Yeah, so I know it talked with the county and it was, we already talked about 10 years and we were actually the ones that suggested a building envelope. We kept it and we applied it like this, but for us, I have no problem. Like I don't want 10, 15 homes in these lots. Like it would defeat the whole purpose of doing this, and So yeah, to answer your question, then, yes.
So this is kind of twofold, you're willing, somebody that buys a property is gonna wanna be able to put a house wherever they can put it. Putting a building envelope on it, working with the neighbors is okay, but inevitably, nobody wants a house there. They always have a different plan. But you're willing to work with the neighbors and come up with a couple of building envelopes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what they were saying as far as the west side, because it's furthest away from me, it's furthest away from everybody on lot like number 3. And it's where irrigation water is going to be least affected by a building site. So like that one's a no-brainer. And you happen to get the best views from that point. The topography, it just that's where, even if you didn't put anything, like I guarantee you whoever would build a house would put it there just for that sake. But obviously you can't guarantee it. So that's why I would consider a building envelope on that. And then lot 2 as well. You know, there's certain areas where to the north, there's like wet areas. So you wouldn't want to put them there on lot 2. So I would have them, you know, in certain areas where it makes sense. And same thing, irrigation water isn't going to be affected.
Thank you, Tony.
And I wanted to address the other thing too. The property sloped, the east side is the high point, and as we head west, it drops. So the spring line that I propose is all gravity fed. So it would be a great system for lot 2 because they would have constant water, spring water, which we've tested, and it is potable drinking quality. Same thing as the water well on that.
You have the well tested too?
Yep.
Thanks for addressing that. Does anyone else have questions for the applicant or for staff at this point? Okay, I'm gonna close public comment. Thank you to the applicant and to the neighbors. We are gonna now discuss amongst ourselves and hopefully entertain some sort of motion to move forward. I think to keep the meeting minutes as organized as possible, we'll go around the room again. Each commissioner can bring up any concerns they have, any comments they have, and at any point if someone would like to make a motion, I would hear that. So maybe we'll start with Cindy this time.
Sure. I think some of the recommendations that I think we've all heard and it sounds like that the applicant is willing to do is, I think, to help some of these neighbors at ease. I think proposing building envelopes on both lot 2 and lot 3 in retrospect of knowing where these wetlands are. I agree with you, Tony, that we can say, hey, I think it should be here or here, but I think we really need to make sure that wetlands are not intruded on.
The
So,
health department will
yeah, they'll know
make
that,
sure
exactly. But I'm saying that's something that I would definitely, if we made a recommendation, I would definitely want to make a recommendation for that. I'd also like to make a recommendation that the irrigation plan, not only the current one, be inspected or, to see what type of traffic it can handle or weight, et cetera, because I think a lot of the neighbors are very concerned that there's going to be an issue, with pipe, et cetera, being able to handle a lot of traffic on those. So those are really the two things I hear the most. It sounds like the neighbors want to keep it in rural, condition. And I think as long as those homes are with a building envelope, I'm feeling that is getting a good answer for them to keep that property. I don't know, and maybe y'all can fill in when they were talking about wanting to only split it, in two. I'd like to hear maybe some thoughts about some of you that maybe heard that and what your thoughts were.
All right, I'll move on to Commissioner Clark.
Just, my hangup is this cockeyed road access. Does that have to be part of this plan? Is that mandatory? I don't know.
Are you talking about the dedication?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
it is a requirement.
Okay, so if anybody along Crawford Road ever sells their property, they're gonna have to include this 50-foot easement,
Not sells, subdivides.
subdivide. So if they didn't subdivide, it would stay just the same. Is that correct?
As far as dedication goes, yeah,
Yeah.
there are petitions all over the county that the county has in place, so.
Yeah, there are other legal mechanisms for the county to acquire
Yeah,
that land if
eminent
they need to.
domain and all
Yeah.
that other stuff, I understand that. I like the idea of maybe for some, consensus here to put in, building lot envelopes to appease the neighbors. I mean, they moved to that area, same reason the owners moved to this area, is for the rural, that word, access, views and lifestyle, so. But I don't think that 2 more homes up there is gonna be significant, one on each 7 acres, so. And I don't know, but when I put my house in on the old tree farm, I got a lot more birds and fauna growing around now than before it was just vacant land. So I think they would benefit, the neighbors would actually benefit from what would take place. That's all I have.
Commissioner Brown.
The way it's proposed right now, if the current owners put building envelopes in and protect the wetlands, I don't have any objection to it. Speaking from experience, 24 years ago, I bought my piece of heaven out in the country, 5.5 acres. The guy to the south of me had 30 acres and he was running cattle, beef cattle. And it was nice, serene, peaceful. And as he aged, he got more infirm. First he sold off the cattle. Then he advertised the whole place. And when we were irrigating, cleaning the ditch one day, I said, you know, Joe, I said, you're trying to sell this place. And I said, we don't know who's gonna come in there or what their plans are. He said, well, it's simple, buy it, and then you don't have to worry about it. And basically, that's, that's the way capitalism works,
Yeah.
The current property owners, because of financial reasons, they don't want to, but they have to sell it. And that's their privilege. And the way they've got it set up right now, I have no objections to it.
Commissioner Mount.
I think do some building envelopes, maybe we limit don't put a 3-story house in there so we don't ruin the neighborhood. I think everybody's homes right there, ranch style homes. Protect the wetlands, the pipeline that's through there, get it engineered by a true engineer, so we protect the pipeline. And put an appropriate access across it, if the access has to move left or right. Here, I'll give you my personal thought. We got a young couple here trying to start a family, do some stuff. This is an assumption, which is that's always the root of all evil. They need some financial help to move ahead. And I don't think it's the end of the world.
Thank you. And Commissioner Merrick?
I agree with everybody on the building envelopes, protect the wetlands and preserve as much ag as possible. There should be building envelopes so that somebody doesn't buy the property and then do something different. I am concerned, I think the irrigation, I agree with Tony, probably that irrigation system, which is right underneath this proposed access, it's gonna have to be dealt with before a problem arises. I would imagine that the applicant is gonna be their problem if something gets damaged there. And I think that's all I got, really.
So I got one more thing to add. I'd like to see a shared irrigation system rather than the shares divided up. Because Minnesota ditch shares are not that great and they don't. 10 shares is a lot better than 2, and so if you've got 4 or 5 acres, if you would share the water together, you can get more done in a couple of days with 10 shares than you can with 2 shares all summer. And I think these guys would benefit from it. I think lot 3 would benefit from it. If you keep the water together and do a timeshare on it where everybody, you know, you got 4 shares, you get all 10 shares for 4 days. The next guy gets all 10 shares for 4 days. The guy that has 2 shares, he gets all 10 shares for 2 days. And you keep rotating it that way because the stuff we've subdivided and you keep up the irrigation water up and up and up, it gets less and less and less. And it's harder to have a good irrigation plan. Now, that's up to them because we don't deal with irrigation water. But that's just my perspective. My place would be a lot better off if we could have shared the water when it got subdivided.
Can I explain something about the irrigation water system?
I'm hesitant to open it up to public comment again, especially since we don't actually regulate irrigation water here. It is not in our purview. We can ask that there's an irrigation plan to, in place, but we can't really dictate or recommend to the applicants what to do with their irrigation water or how it works. I think the comments about the irrigation infrastructure and who's responsible for making sure that stays in good tact through development is a well-made point.
I just wanted to explain how the system works among the 3 properties, given what you just said.
It's really not up to us. Yeah.
Over, I'll tell you who to get a hold of and how to take care of it and what you need to do, and it's really easy.
I do want to address the neighbors' suggestions for doing 2 lots instead of a 3-lot subdivision. We're here to decide on this project, and we can't really make edits to their plat. Here, the one decision we could make, of course, is to deny the whole project and have them come back with a new design. But it seems like, at least in my opinion, and it seems like the rest of the commission is on board with the plan as it stands with a couple of extra conditions. That, yeah, within this meeting, we can't basically change what they're applying for. So that would be up to the applicant to vacate this application and submit a new one if they really take those recommendations. But that's just, I just wanted to make sure we hear your concerns and think that hopefully we're coming up with the best plan within the parameters we have. It seems like everyone's on fairly same page here. Would anyone like to make a motion? Yeah.
So, Cindy Watson, Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion on PLN 24-026. I would like to have some recommendations on this before we vote one way or the other, but the recommendations that we have as a board is that we would definitely like to see an irrigation plan, whether it's an inspection of the existing system, or engineering done professionally where the applicant knows what needs to be done to preserve this irrigation system with the existing as well as new lots that are being proposed. Also, that we'd like to see some building envelopes on lot 2 and 3. And especially, we would like to see all wetlands protected within these building envelopes and around those spaces. So I believe those are the recommendations that we'd like to see as a commission, and those are the ones we'd like to propose.
Okay, to clarify, are you motioning to approve or to
Yes.
recommend approval
I am motioning,
with those 3 conditions?
yes, I am recommending approval with those 3 conditions, Chair.
Added to staff conditions.
Added to staff conditions, please. Thank you.
For clarification, you're recommending approval with all of staff's recommended conditions.
Yes,
then
I am,
additional
I'm
two.
correct with our 3 recommendations on top of those. David, thank you.
I'll second the motion.
All right, motion is seconded by Commissioner Merrick. Say everyone in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, with that, the motion passes to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners. Project number 24-026 with staff conditions, plus an additional 3 conditions. Do you want me to reread or reiterate the 3 conditions for the minutes, or you feel like you got them? Reiterate the 3 conditions are that wetlands are shown on the final plat and protected from development, that the applicants include building envelopes on lots 2 and 3 that both protect wetlands and take into consideration neighbor concerns, and that the access to lots 2 and 3 is built with the irrigation infrastructure in mind, including some engineering or consultation with NRCS or the irrigation plan managers. All right, let's see, applicants, you are good to go to proceed to the Board of County Commissioners. Neighbors or public that's still concerned, you have one more chance to address your concerns to the Board of County Commissioners. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, guys.
The baby was perfect.
A little loud, but otherwise pretty good.
That's being a
I
baby.
can hardly hear him.
Stefano, we'll reach out about the Board of County Commissioner meeting, okay?
Okay, perfect. And then do you tell them about the YouTube? So if you guys want to see the type of like agriculture I do, if you look up my name on YouTube, you can see I do all regenerative agriculture videos. I've been filming farms here in Delta County. So you can kind of see what, and I even talk about the farm there too. So you guys can see, the community can see what type of agriculture I envision here. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
You can hang out or you guys can leave if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, we just have a couple other items on our agenda that may or may not be anything.
In the public.
I mean, public, you're welcome to stick around and listen to our couple of housekeeping things, or if you're ready to go, get some dinner, you're welcome to take off.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for hearing us.
Thank you, of
Yeah.
course. Thank you for your input.
Is there anything for department report, anything from staff?
Did you want to talk with Tony before he leaves tonight? If so, we'll be just out of it.
The name.
Robert Gallegos is in Eckerd. The NRCS is out here in the industrial park. And they'll have all the guidelines how to preserve that. They'll have maps of it all and everything.
I do.
And the M.
And National Resource Conservation Service.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And they're in the industrial.
Thank you. Thanks for your.
You're welcome. Have a
Thank
safe
you.
drive home.
Is there anything from staff? I was thinking we'll maybe see Sean for our first meeting.
So he was very sad that he.
Yeah. So we have a new director, but he's not here. Is there any, I guess just a question, has anyone taken his role at environmental health yet? Okay.
I believe they're back full staff.
Okay.
It's easier to fill those positions. Oh,
Sean, get it.
but other than that, there's nothing
Okay,
else to bring to you. at this
thank
time.
you. What does future applications look like, kind of our
Yeah.
schedule in the next few months? We know if there's anything on this schedule at this point.
At the moment, we don't have anything.
They do
Okay.
not have any project.
Then I imagine once Sean gets settled in, we may kind of readdress some of those lingering bigger projects, not specific hearing items, but we'll give him a chance to settle in a little bit and probably do want to revisit some of those other things eventually. Are there any comments from commissioners or anything you'd like to add to future agendas?
I got a comment. So I've been gone for a while. That subdivision that was out here on F Road that did.
Uh-huh.
So during that meeting, and I didn't say anything during the meeting, and I know this is on record and all that. The one guy stated that he removed asbestos from somebody's property and hauled it to the dump. If that happens, that's a state deal. And it's a big thing that the county needs to be aware of. And we probably should have stopped the meeting right then and there and got some clarification on it. Cause asbestos is a big deal.
So just, you know, I did get certified through the EPA as an asbestos building inspector. Also, I'll be working on my state certification.
I doubt he actually removed any asbestos. I think it was just him talking, but
It's a very, it is a lot more complicated. We've got a lot of talk to the landfill too. There was some speculation on if they could expand to a friable section or not, or as it is now, we're staying with the non-friable section of the landfill, stuff like that. I have been learning quite a bit and dealing with CDPHE and learning some they're starting to come down a little harder on everything as well. Working on some projects now they're starting to come down on inspectors as well as contractors. So,
well, we tear down quite a few things in Guns and Montrose counties and it's a whole ordeal. But
it's getting worse.
And it's a good thing that we do it because we don't want that stuff leaching into groundwater or doing, but if it comes up at another planning meeting, we should be aware of it and maybe figure out what they're actually doing. That's it.
Anything else? I'll adjourn the meeting.
Was there anything on our next meeting for November 13th? There's nothing yet on that meeting, okay.
So I have